The first thing I learned is that there are four different schools of economics, and those four are Austrian, Chicago, Keynesian, and socialism. The Austrian School of Economics is on one end of the spectrum as the more like individualistic and decentralized system, and socialism is on the opposite end as a more like collective and centralized type of system. The second thing that I learned was a little more in depth about the Austrian system. And I learned that the Austrian system focuses more on saving money and just like being self dependent or individualistic. And usually the price and like the market conditions are adjusting kind of based on individuals' preferences. And essentially, the Austrian people believe that each person is their own business and they're free to make their own choices. And then the last lesson that I learned is about socialism, and I learned that socialism is kind of the more controversial school of economics, as we've seen in history, and they emphasize the well-being of the population or the collective rather than like an individual, and rather than personal freedom and like ownership. And this usually ends up in leaders taking advantage of control of production, land, and just the economy in general. The two questions I have are, can the different schools of economy be used together in a system and coexist, or are they so contradictory that only one can be chosen and they must be separated? My second question is, how do the different schools of economy work in the short term versus long term? And then one thing I want to share with the class is that I found it really interesting that in the Keynesian School of Economics, the government intervention is necessary to stabilize the economy during recessions or slow periods. And a famous example of this was in the New Deal, in which Franklin D. Roosevelt implemented to help America get out of the Great Depression.